Well, long-term thinking is a lever. It lets you do things that you could not do or couldn't even conceive of doing if you were thinking short-term. So if that's why, I have a project where I'm helping a group of people build a 10,000-year clock. It kind of ticks once a year and dongs once a century, and the cuckoo comes out once a millennium. It's a big 500-foot tall thing inside a mountain right here.
Inside one of those mountains.
This mountain range. And the 10,000-year clock is a symbol. I don't think it'll do anything for the first few hundred years, but after a few hundred years, once it's old, you will start to pay attention to older symbols. And so a few hundred years from now, I hope that people will think about that as a symbol for long-term thinking. If I collaborated with somebody here in this audience and I said, look, I want you to solve world hunger, and I want you to do it in 5 years, you would properly reject the opportunity. You would say, look, it's not possible, it's not practical. But if I said, look, I want you to solve world hunger in 100 years, that's a job you'd take, because it's a much more addressable problem. You can first create the conditions. You have time to create the conditions where then you can solve the problem. And so that's a very important way of thinking, and I find, and it works with everything. I mean, you have to back up and find the right time horizon for what you're trying to do. But at Amazon, we probably do most of our things. We expect to get some results in sort of 5, 6, 7, 8 years. But we find a lot of our other companies that compete against us in various ways, they're often trying to get things done in 2 or 3 years. And so we can do things that, if everything has to work in 2 to 3 years, then that limits what you can do. If you give yourself the breathing room to say, okay, I'm okay if it takes 7 years, all of a sudden you have way more opportunities.
You can't really do the right thing for customers if you're short-term oriented. And if you're going to invent new things, you've also got to be able, and this goes along with long-term orientation, you've got to be willing to endure a lot of criticism. Every new business that we have ever invested in, it has taken years. Most businesses have either no impact on our financials for the first 5 to 7 years, or a negative impact on our financials for the first 5 to 7 years. And we do a lot of new things. The company is very healthy financially. We're doing very well, and it's an outcome of customer obsession. So, when we were Amazon.toast, that was because Barnes & Noble had, we only had when we were declared Amazon.toast, I think we had 150 employees. Barnes & Noble had 30,000 employees. And somebody wrote an article that said, Amazon has had a great 2-year run, but now the big boys have shown up, and they're going to steamroll them. And, we had an all-hands meeting. I called all 150 employees together. I said, look, because everybody's worried about it. Every employee has read the Amazon.toast article. Every mother of every employee has read the Amazon.toast article and has called and said,
your father and mother who live here in New York.
Yeah, are you okay? Yeah. And so we had an all-hands meeting, and I said, look, you should wake up worried, terrified every morning, but don't be worried about our competitors, because they're never going to send us any money anyway. Let's be worried about our customers and stay heads down focused. And so these are big, most of these are big markets. Another way to answer your question about competitors and Walmart is to say, look, they can succeed fabulously, and it won't stop us from succeeding. These retail markets are huge. So it often doesn't make sense for us to think of it as a pitched battle. Sometimes people think about business as it's kind of like a sporting event. There's a winner and a loser.
It's not a zero-sum game.
It usually isn't. I'm sure there are cases where, but most often, industries succeed. So I can tell you, I think e-commerce is succeeding.